Looking at the stack of reports we have on the desk today, I think it's safe to say we are living in a bit of a paradox, a very expensive paradox.
It certainly feels that way. It's the kind of problem that costs billions before anyone really even realizes it's there.
We're sitting here in 2026. We have autonomous manufacturing. We've got digital twins running entire factories, AI that can predict a machine failure before a human even hears a squeak. But the sources we're covering today highlight this massive, glaring problem right in the middle of all this sci-fi tech.
It's that hiding in plain sight problem. You walk into these facilities and they look futuristic, but the engine room, so to speak, is sputtering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're looking at this report, Redefining Education Where Technology Meets Pharma 4.0, and the headline number is just staggering. 85% of pharmaceutical companies have launched these massive digital transformation initiatives. They're all in. They've bought the hardware.
Right. They've bought the spaceships. They have the gleaming hulls, the warp drives, the whole 9 yards.
They've bought the spaceships, but, and here's the catch, there is a catastrophic shortage of people who actually know how to fly them.
And that's the core tension we're really unpacking today. The industry is calling it an unprecedented education and workforce development crisis. And that sounds dramatic, maybe a little hyperbolic, but when you actually look at the data in these sources, it's arguably an understatement. You have facilities running blockchain for their supply chain, IoT sensors on every single bioreactor, but the workforce is effectively still being trained for, 2015.
It's a bit like training a pilot on a glider, handing them a manual and then tossing them the keys to an F-35 and just saying, good luck, don't crash.
That is uncomfortably accurate. And the stakes here are incredibly high. We're not just talking about, the IT help desk is busy or the printer is jammed.
Right.
This is about the fundamental ability to manufacture medicine safely and efficiently. There's one stat that just jumped out at me from the source material. It really paints the picture. 70% of pharmacy graduates are now transitioning into technology-intensive roles.
70%. Wow. That is a massive shift.
It is. These are roles they were, effectively not trained for. They spent 4 years learning chemistry, biology, pharmacology, which is all essential, don't get me wrong. But then they land a job and realize, wait, I need to understand Python. I need to understand data integrity on a distributed ledger. I need to know why the AI is flagging this batch.
So the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We need to figure out why this gap exists, why is education failing to keep up, and then we need to look at the solutions because some of this stuff is wild. We're talking virtual reality, AI coaches, adaptive learning systems. It's essentially Pharma 4.0.
It really is. It's the upgrade patch for the human workforce.
Okay, let's start with the why. Why is the disconnect so bad? Is it just that technology moves too fast? Because we hear that about every industry.
It's the speed mismatch, but in pharma, it's amplified. So think about the software world. A new AI model or a major update happens, every 6 months? Sometimes weeks?
Or days. Lately, it feels like you wake up and the world has already changed.
Right. Now, contrast that with a university curriculum. To overhaul a degree program, write the syllabus, get it approved by the dean, get it accredited, and then roll it out. That is a 3 to 5 year cycle, minimum.
So by the time a student actually graduates, the cutting-edge tech they learned as a freshman is basically a museum piece.
Precisely. The report calls this the curriculum lag challenge. And in pharma, this shift has been violent. We went from paper batch records, literally clipboards and ballpoint pens, to real-time analytics and blockchain almost overnight. The universities are trying to turn a battleship. The industry's driving a speedboat.
And it's not just the companies complaining about this, is it? I saw mentions of the regulators getting involved, which, that usually means things are getting serious.
That's when you know it's not just a trend. This isn't a nice to have. The Royal Pharmaceutical Society and the UK's General Pharmaceutical Council have stepped in, and they have formally declared digital skills a core competency.
So it's no longer, hey, you're good at computers, can you come fix this? It's more like, if you want to be a pharmacist, you must understand this.
Exactly. You wouldn't hire a pharmacist who doesn't know what aspirin is. Well, now you won't hire one who doesn't understand digital health systems. And the people feeling the heat the most are the supply chain leaders. 83% of them admit they have to reskill their current workforce. They can't just hire their way out of this because, and this is the kicker, they are competing with Google, Amazon, and OpenAI for the same talent.
Oh, that's a losing battle. If you're a top-tier data scientist, do you want to work for the cool new tech startup with the beanbag chairs, or a legacy pharma plant that kind of smells like disinfectant?
Usually the startup. So pharma has to build their own talent. They have to manufacture their workforce just like they manufacture their drugs. They need a pipeline of people.
Okay, so let's get into the what. If the old school curriculum is broken, what does this new core curriculum even look like? What does a worker in 2026 actually need to know? Because I'm assuming it's not just Introduction to AI 101.
No, it's much more specific. The sources break it down into 4 main pillars, and I think these are fascinating because they aren't what you'd traditionally expect. So the first one is automation.
Which sounds like engineering.
It is, but it's a specific blend. It's split 50-50. 50% equipment focus, so knowing how the robot arm moves, the mechanics of it, and 50% data systems focus.
So you can't just be a mechanic anymore. You can't just be the person who hits it with a wrench when it stops working.
No. You have to be a mechanic who understands the data stream that the machine is spitting out. You need to know if that vibration data means the bearing is loose or if maybe the sensor itself is just drifting. You're diagnosing the data as much as the metal.
That seems to lead right into the second pillar, doesn't it? Digital quality.
Right. This is the big shift from reactive to predictive. So in the old days, and by old days I really mean like 5 years ago, reactive meant the batch failed, let's stop everything, launch an investigation, quarantine the product, and write a 30-page report.
It's the autopsy approach, figuring out why it died after the fact.
Exactly. Predictive is using AI to spot a tiny pattern, maybe a temperature fluctuation of just 0.1 degrees, that suggests a failure might happen in the next 4 hours.
That's Minority Report for manufacturing.
You stop the crime before it happens, you save the batch, and that requires a totally different mindset than just following a checklist. You have to be looking at trends, not just status lights.
Okay, pillar 3, software tools. I saw a bunch of acronyms like LIMS and MISIS. Can we decode those for everyone?
Sure. So LIMS is Laboratory Information Management Systems. MES is Manufacturing Execution Systems. But really, just think of these as the digital backbone.
The nervous system of the factory.
That's a great analogy. It's about understanding how raw materials are traced from the moment they enter the loading dock until they leave as a finished vial. And it's all done through electronic batch records.
So RIP to the clipboard. I know some people really love their clipboards.
No more clipboards. If it's not in the system, it didn't happen. And that leads to the 4th pillar, which, I mean, this might be the most important one, data and AI literacy.
Now, does this mean everyone needs to be a coder? Because that seems like a really high bar.
No, and that's a common misconception. It's not about writing code. It's about data hygiene. Can you clean a data set? Can you visualize it in something like Tableau or Power BI? And crucially, do you understand algorithmic bias?
That's a big one. Knowing when the computer might be wrong.
Or knowing when the data feeding the computer is skewed. Just because the AI says this parameter is safe, you need a human to have the literacy to say, wait a minute, that training data came from a different process. Is it actually applicable here?
It's the critical thinking layer on top of the algorithm.
Exactly. You can't just blindly trust the black box. You have to know enough to challenge it.
So we have these 4 pillars. We have automation, digital quality, the digital backbone, and AI literacy.
Yeah.
But here's the problem I keep coming back to. How do you actually teach this? You can't exactly let a rookie loose in a sterile lab to, figure it out.
Oops, I just contaminated a $2 million batch of medicine.
Right. Sorry about all the particulates, my bad.
And that is the clean room paradox. You cannot learn without practice, but letting a novice practice is way too risky and way too expensive. You have gowning procedures, airflow dynamics, sterility assurance. You just can't simulate the pressure of that environment in a classroom.
Until now, I guess.
Yeah.
Because this is where the tech gets really fun, virtual reality.
VR is the absolute game changer here. And let's be clear, this isn't just putting on a headset and watching a 360-degree video. This is fully interactive simulation.
The stats on this are wild. The report mentions a 275% improvement in confidence.
And 75% better retention than traditional lectures. It works because it's visceral. So imagine you put on the headset, you are standing in a photorealistic, sterile manufacturing suite. You look down, you see your hands, you have to practice gowning, putting on the suit.
Which is so much harder than it sounds. There's a specific order, a specific way you have to touch things. If you touch the outside of the glove with your bare hand, you're done.
Exactly. And in the VR, if you move your arm too fast, whoosh, the system detects that you just disrupted the laminar airflow. It flashes red. It shows you the particulates you just shed all over the open vials.
That immediate feedback loop.
Right. In the real world, you wouldn't know you made that mistake until the quality control test came back 3 days later. In VR, you see it instantly. You build that muscle memory without any of the risk. You can fail 50 times in the morning and be perfect by the afternoon.
It's the ultimate safe space to fail. You can crash the plane 100 times so you don't crash it when the passengers are actually on board.
And it extends to augmented reality, or AR, right on the factory floor. Imagine wearing a pair of smart glasses that overlay the repair instructions right onto the machine you're fixing.
Oh, that's huge for maintenance. I've seen guys trying to balance a tablet or a paper manual while they're trying to turn a wrench. It looks like a circus act.
Exactly. This is hands-free, voice-activated, show me the torque settings for this bolt, and poof, it projects it right there in your field of view. It reduces error rates significantly because you aren't looking back and forth between a book and the machine.
So VR and AR handle the physical skills.
Mm.
But what about the brain work, the theory? Because I remember sitting in pharmacology lectures where the professor just droned on. Half the class was bored because they already knew it, and the other half was totally lost because they missed the first 10 minutes.
And that brings us to the second major solution, AI-powered adaptive learning. The era of one-size-fits-all education is, it's essentially over.
How does that actually work, though? Is it just like a quiz that gets harder if you get the answers right?
It's much more sophisticated than that. It uses something called knowledge state modeling. Think of it like a GPS for your brain. The AI builds a map of what you specifically know, that's your knowledge level, and how you connect those concepts, that's your knowledge structure.
So it knows I understand the basics of pharmacology, but it also sees that I'm totally lost when it comes to pharmacokinetic modeling.
Precisely. And unlike a standard course where the semester ends and everyone just moves on, regardless of whether they got a C- or an A, this system uses mastery-based progression.
So it puts up a roadblock.
It puts up a gate. It literally says you cannot move to the complex topic until you prove you have mastered the foundation. It's all about competence, not seat time.
That stops the problem of, like, Swiss cheese knowledge, where you have all these holes in your foundation that eventually make the whole building collapse.
Exactly. And the coolest part is misconception detection. Let's say you get a question wrong. The system doesn't just say incorrect, try again. It analyzes why you got it wrong.
It traces the logic error.
It tries to. It detects the specific misunderstanding. Maybe you confuse two similar chemical pathways. It then provides what's called scaffolding, a specific hint, a short video, or an explanation targeting that exact error in real time.
That's better than a human tutor in some ways. A human tutor might not catch the subtle reason why I'm confused.
And a human tutor isn't available at 2 in the morning when you're studying.
Speaking of tutors, there was a specific case study in the source material about an AI coach they called Trinity.
Trinity. Very Matrix.
I know, right? So what does Trinity do?
Trinity is designed to train medical representatives. Now, traditionally, if you wanted to train a rep on how to talk to a doctor about a new drug, you had to role play, usually with a manager.
Which is just universally hated. It's so awkward. It's high pressure. Nobody acts natural. It's just cringeworthy.
Precisely. So Trinity is an AI simulation. The rep practices the conversation with the AI. The AI plays the doctor. It simulates objections. It asks tough clinical questions. It'll even bring up compliance traps to see if the rep takes the bait.
So you can argue with the robot.
You can, and you can fail. You can crash and burn dozens of times with Trinity before you ever walk into a real doctor's office.
And the AI judges you.
It critiques you. It analyzes your soft skills, your tone, your pacing, confidence, even empathy. It gives you a scorecard. You sounded defensive when the doctor asked about side effects, or you spoke too quickly during the clinical data overview.
That is seriously impressive. It's quantifying the unquantifiable.
And it all connects to the Modern Learning Management System, or LMS. These platforms are shifting to be mobile first, and they use this concept I love called delta training.
Oh, I love this term, delta training.
It's just respect for the professional's time. Delta means change. So if a regulation changes, you don't have to retake the whole 10-hour compliance course. You only train on the delta, the specific thing that changed.
That is a sanity saver. There is nothing worse than clicking next, next, next on slides you memorized 5 years ago just to get to the one new paragraph.
It's about efficiency. But there is another layer to this agility, especially for people who want to change careers. We need to talk about micro-credentials.
This seems to be the answer to the whole degrees take too long problem.
It is. The trend is stackable skills. So instead of going back to grad school for 2 years to pivot from quality assurance to data science, you take short, focused certifications, maybe 20 to 40 hours each.
So I get a badge in HPLC method development or blockchain traceability.
Exactly. You stack them up like Boy Scout badges, but for high-tech pharma. It allows a mid-career professional to pivot without quitting their job.
But here's the skeptic in me coming out. Digital badges. How do I know you didn't just Photoshop that certificate? How does an employer know it's actually real?
That is the trust gap. And the solution is the technology itself, blockchain.
So the credential actually lives on the chain.
Yes. These micro-credentials are cryptographically secured, they are tamper-proof, and they are instantly verifiable.
So a hiring manager doesn't have to call the university registrar and wait on hold for 3 days.
They just check the hash. They can see exactly what you learned, when you learned it, what the criteria were, and they can verify that the issuing body is legitimate. It kills resume fraud dead.
That's a total game changer for hiring speed. You can see the skills matrix of a candidate instantly.
But, and there is always a but, all of this tech, the VR, the AI, the blockchain, it's totally useless if the organization is a mess.
Right. Who runs all this? Is it HR? Is it IT? Is it operations? Because usually those 3 departments don't even talk to each other.
The source material identifies a specific structure that seems to work best. The Center of Excellence, or COE.
Center of Excellence usually sounds like corporate jargon for a room where nothing happens.
Yeah.
But this is different.
It has to be. It's a hybrid model. You have a centralized team of experts, people who understand learning science, curriculum design, all the nerdy stuff. But they don't sit in an ivory tower. They have business partners embedded right on the manufacturing floor.
So people designing the training actually know what the factory needs today, not what it needed 6 months ago when they started planning.
Exactly. It creates this constant feedback loop, and it relies on what they call a leadership pyramid.
Okay, break that down for me. Who needs to do what?
At the very top, you have the executives. They have to stop treating education as just a compliance tax. We need to train so we don't get fined. It has to be, we need to train to survive.
A strategic priority. It's an investment, not just a cost.
Then, in the middle, and this is probably the most critical layer, you have the middle managers. The report calls them the translation layer.
Why are they the most critical layer?
Because they control the time. If a manager says, oh yeah, training is important, but then they're writing you to hit production targets and never give you an hour off the line to actually do the training, it's just not going to happen.
The bottleneck is always the middle manager who's under pressure.
Always. And finally, at the bottom, the front line. They need to engage with microlearning. We aren't talking about sending people away for a week-long seminar anymore. We are talking about 5 to 15-minute lessons integrated right into their workflow.
Learning while you're earning.
Exactly. It becomes continuous. It's part of the job, not something separate from it.
This paints a pretty vivid picture of 2026. But the report also hints at what's coming next, because the goalpost, it just keeps moving. What's on the horizon beyond VR and Trinity?
2 things really stood out to me. First, synthetic AI instructors.
Which is distinct from Trinity.
Yes. Trinity is a role-play partner. Synthetic instructors are full-blown avatars that look and sound human, who can teach really complex theory, and they never get tired, they never get frustrated, and they can teach you 204/7 in any language.
The teacher that never sleeps. That's a little eerie, but also incredibly useful.
And second, federated learning. This addresses the privacy issue. So companies want to train their AI models, but they don't want to share their proprietary data with competitors.
Right. I want my AI to be smart, but I'm not giving you my trade secrets.
Federated learning solves this. The AI model itself travels to the data. It goes to company A, it learns from their data locally, without the data ever leaving company A's servers, updates itself, and then it moves on to company B.
So the AI gets smarter using everyone's data, but nobody sees anyone else's secrets. That is incredibly clever.
It is. It allows the whole industry to get smarter without compromising IP. And it brings us to what I think is the ultimate takeaway from this whole deep dive. We used to think the competitive advantage in pharma was your patent portfolio or your drug pipeline.
It's not.
In this new world, it's the velocity of your people. How fast can your workforce learn? That is the new currency.
That is a powerful thought. It's not about what you know today. It's about how fast you can overwrite that with what you need to know for tomorrow.
Exactly. The half-life of a skill is now maybe 18 months. If you aren't learning, you are expiring.
So here is a final question for you listening to this right now. If technology is rendering skills obsolete every 18 months, is a 4-year degree still the right foundation? Or are we moving toward a world where education is like a subscription service, something you just subscribe to for life and never actually graduate from?
It's a shift from I learned to I am learning.
Something to think about next time you log into your LMS.
Thanks for diving in with us.
A pleasure.
See you in the next one.